Hello FPL managers and welcome back to another video from myself, Will, and fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the best team to start with in Game Week 1 according to our powerful algorithm. Let's get into it. Okay, so on Monday I did one of these videos showcasing our Rate My Team tool. That team specifically was targeting Game Week 1. It took no account of Game Weeks 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. But I got a lot of people asking me, could I do a similar video, but not just for Game Week 1, for the start of the season. So that's what this video is all about. So before we do look at the best team that algorithm recommends for starting in Game Week 1, I'm going to very briefly explain the Rate My Team tool, especially for those that didn't watch the video on Monday. This is a brand new tool on Fantasy Football Hub. You can get your team rated completely free. All you got to do is, log in with your FPL credentials. Don't worry, we don't store any of that data. And you'll be able to get a rating, a percentage out of 100 for your team. So completely free to do it. Go and do it now. Let me know in the comments what your team is rated as a percentage. The tool also has some advanced features which are available for Fantasy Football Hub members, like sorting your captains and bench, looking at future game weeks, and also critically recommending transfers for your team. So if you're a Fantasy Football Hub member, I'd recommend checking that out as well. If you're yet to become a Fantasy Football Hub member, then now is absolutely the time to do it. There's 25% off discount. I'll leave a link in the description and in the information card above. We've got so many tools, features, articles, team reveals on site, all designed to help you dominate those mini leagues this season. Okay, so this is my current draft. If you're interested to see, my explanations for my picks, I'll leave a link in the description to my latest team reveal draft, which is this current draft. For Fantasy Football Hub members, I'd recommend pressing the sort captains and bench. That will give your team a new rating. So you can see mine has gone up to 93%. And as you can see, switch from having Salah as captain in Game Week 3 to Son as captain, Fernandez in Game Week 4. So that's given my rating a bump up to 93%. As I said, interested to know what your team is rated as, let me know in the comments. Okay, but that's not what we're here for. On Monday, we went over the best Game Week 1 picks, looking specifically at Game Week 1. In this video, we're going to go over the best picks to start the season. Now, a couple of things to note about the tool. Firstly, the algorithm behind it takes data from the last 3 seasons. We've done a lot of statistical analysis to see what bits of that data are most predictive for fantasy football points. So that's effectively the engine that's running it. It crunches all the numbers and spits out projected points for each player, which you can see on our projected points tool as well. And this new tool effectively combines those projected points into a team that you could actually potentially use. Now, the other thing to say that this tool is very much a beta. We've got a lot of big plans for it, but I still think it's got a huge amount of use and a huge amount of potential. The third thing to say about it is it does have a slight weighting. So it will weight Game Week 1 slightly above Game Week 2, Game Week 2 slightly above Game Week 3, etc., etc. Okay, so this is the team that it recommends. The first thing that I should say that this is not a static team. As we'll go through, it does recommend transfers in Game Week 2 and recommends transfers in Game Week 3, and it also switches the captaincy over. So a pretty clever tool. I would take some of that with a pinch of salt though, because I think when you are creating your Game Week 1 team, it's very difficult to book in transfers. So I wouldn't necessarily take this team as absolute gospel. I really like using these algorithms. I really like using these tools, but I do think you've got to make your own judgments. You've got to use your own gut. You've got to take the information that's given to you and formulate your own opinions. But nevertheless, I think it's a really interesting tool, and the team that it's come out with is really interesting as well. Big favourite for Sanchez at the back, offering such good value. Brighton have got such good fixtures. I know that he's hugely popular amongst the Twitter community. He's probably the template pick at the moment. Maybe not the highest overall ownership, but certainly within those experienced managers, those ones that are on Twitter. And he's certainly one that I've been considering. I'm currently on Backman just because I think he's got a slightly higher potential ceiling, but I can completely understand why the algorithm has gone for Sanchez. At the back, I think it's really interesting actually. It's gone for the Liverpool double up in Trent and Tsimikas, which isn't that surprising. Tsimikas looks like he's set to start for the first few game weeks, coming in at 4.0, an absolute, pretty much a no-brainer pick, and obviously offering loads of value and giving the Rate My Team tool a lot of flexibility with its other players as well. Trent, you know, isn't really worth going into too much detail around then. He's pretty much been in all the teams that I've seen, and for good reason. And it's no surprise that the algorithm is favouring him as well. It's gone for the double Brighton defence in Dunk and Sanchez. Now, that's not too surprising either. You know, as I mentioned, Brighton got such good fixtures. They've got such good underlying data, which of course is all fed in to the algorithm. They've got a really good expected goals conceded from last season, suggesting that, you know, they've got a good chance of getting some clean sheets early doors. Dunk, of course, offering some attacking threat as well, which it all is factored into. So I think he's a really nice pick, coming in at 5 million. I haven't seen him in too many drafts, but I think he's a very, very solid option. Rudiger there, a very, very interesting one this. Now, I haven't seen him in any other FPL drafts. I do think he's a very, very solid option, you know, coming in at 5.5. As we'll see, though, the Rate My Team tool has only got Rudiger included for Game Week 1. It's actually looking to transfer Rudiger out for Game Week 2. So a really interesting strategy there. And I actually saw a video that Fergie did with FPL Chunks, who won our 5k cash league. If you haven't entered that already, get involved, and also watch his video. I'll leave a link in the description to that. But one of the strategies that he recommended was actually going with Alonso in Game Week 1, then transferring him out in Game Week 2. And that, I think, is a really, really interesting strategy. And the Rate My Team tool has picked up on something similar here. It's gone for Rudiger Game Week 1, and then it looks to transfer him out Game Week 2. It's not a transfer which personally I would look to make. You know, personally, there's so much going to happen in Game Week 1 that I want to remain flexible with my transfer in Game Week 2. I don't really want to book a transfer in. But it is a strategy which, you know, it makes sense that that algorithm has sort of picked this out because, you know, it doesn't have any doubts on who are going to be the best picks for Game Week 2. So I do actually think that, you know, going one Chelsea player in Game Week 1 and then switching them out is a viable strategy. You could potentially do something similar with Havertz. You know, you could go Havertz Game Week 1, leave 1.5 million in the bank, and then switch over to Son, who's got a really good run of fixtures from Game Week 2 to Game Week 4. That's something that I've half been considering myself, although again, I'm just not a fan of booking in transfers, so that's why I haven't done it. But I think it's fascinating that the Rate My Team tool has done exactly that. In midfield, you know, you can't argue with any of those picks. Salah and Fernandes have been absolute locks in my team. I've seen them in everyone's draft. Mahrez, an interesting one there. Obviously, very, very explosive, and we're expecting him to get, you know, a good chunk of minutes, certainly to start the season. And I think that that's why the Rate My Team algorithm is favouring him. You know, he's got really, really high ceiling. He's got good expected data from last season. And I think any Manchester City player, which we think is going to get a lot of picks, is probably going to be expected to score a lot of FPL points. So I know that Mahrez is in a lot of other people's drafts as well. So I think he's a very, very strong option. And it's tough to argue against him, to be honest. Moving on to the strike force, again, you know, sort of Twitter template picks there. Antonio and Ings, both of those are in my draft. They look absolutely sort of locked in for the Rate My Team tool as well. So really, really interesting to see them come up. And Tony, again, you know, a very, very popular pick at the moment. One of the highest owned players in the game. We had some news recently that we are expecting him to start Game Week 1. So that's all been plugged into the Rate My Team algorithm, and it's really, really favouring him for the start of the season. So again, you know, it's difficult to argue with any of those three picks. Just to note before we go on to its recommended transfer for Game Week 2, a quick note on the bench. It's got Veltman there. That's a player that I've got in my squad. I think he's a fantastic pick. He's really liking the Brighton defence. And I should say, you know, the algorithm just looks to maximise points, which is actually how I like to play. But it won't necessarily look at, you know, the potential risk of going for a treble Brighton defence. Obviously, you know, it's only got two starting in this team. And I actually think that, you know, going Veltman, Dunk and Sanchez, they're all really, really good picks. And having Veltman first in your bench, I think is a very, very strong option. It's gone for Brownhill and Douglas Luiz as other bench options. I actually think Basuma might be in there. Ahead of Douglas Luiz, but obviously it's already got three Brighton players. Okay, so having a quick look at Game Week 2 then, and as you can see, the transfer that it has done, it's gone Rudiger to Stones, and that makes a lot of sense. You know, Manchester City have got one of the most rock-solid defences. Stones looks fairly assured, and it's the same price as Rudiger as well. Obviously, Chelsea have a really, really difficult run of fixtures from Game Week 2 onwards, so it kind of explains why it's not favouring their picks from game week 2. But as I said, it's a nice way of thinking about it. Personally, if it was me, I would probably try and find a way to stretch to get, either Cancelo or Diaz in. Diaz obviously completely nailed, and Cancelo I think offers, some pretty exciting attacking threat. But if it was me and I was spending a transfer, I'd probably look to do something similar to FPL Chunks and play Alonso in game week 1 actually, and then go to someone like a Cancelo or Diaz. I think that's got slightly more a higher ceiling, but who am I to argue with the algorithm? Okay, as I said, if you do want your current draft rated by our algorithm, then I'll leave a link in the description. Let me know in the comments what your team rating is. I'll be really interested to see that. But otherwise, I hope you did enjoy this video. Let me know in the comments if you did, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.